Local productions on QTV are made possible with support from viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello everybody, I'm Junia. This is Uncommon Sense. Thank you so much for joining us today. My guest today is Joseph Kehodl, known as Paleo Joe in his outfit. He is an award-winning paleontologist and storyteller. His book, A Complete Guide to Michigan Fossils, is a field trip guide, and he has authored several children's books as part of the Paleo Joe's Dinosaur Detective Club, a series for students in grade 2 through 6. So welcome, Paleo Joe.
Thank you very much. It's so beautiful to be here.
Oh, I'm grateful. I'm grateful. So tell me, paleontologist is a pretty big word. What actually does it mean?
Well, paleontologist is a person who studies ancient plants and animals or evidence that those creatures existed. Paleontologists look for fossils, and fossils are the remains of those plants and animals that existed millions and millions of years ago.
I see. And where do they look for them?
Boy, we can find fossils all over the world. There is no shortage of fossils. Here in Michigan, we have a tremendous fossil trove up from Alpena all the way to Traverse City. We find fossils on every continent in the world. They're literally everywhere.
And I understand this area was once a shallow saltwater sea closer to the equator.
Absolutely.
What do you know about that?
Yes, we were once the bottom of a shallow saltwater tropical sea. And we know that by the fossils that we find here. We find fossils here that are called hexagonaria coral. And a hexagonaria coral, more commonly known to Michiganders, is a Petoskey stone. But it's not a Petoskey stone until you slice it and polish it and charge people lots of money for it. Then it's a Petoskey stone. But these hexagonaria coral only grew in warm, shallow tropical seas. We know that because corals today only grow in warm, shallow tropical seas. So at one time we were located down by the equator, and here we are 350 million years later up in Michigan. The reason for that is because of something called plate tectonics.
Yes, explain that.
It's always moving and shifting and changing. There are earthquakes, there are volcanoes, and the Earth is always in a process of change. And at one time we were located down there, but because we are moving to the northwest very slowly, here we are in the state of Michigan.
I see. So the fossils are only from that period, or they're later when it had moved north, so to speak?
Yes, we have found fossils here in Michigan that go back to the Pennsylvanian period, which is about 200 million years, and that's very close to where we are right now. Out in St. Charles and Saginaw, we do find those fossils that are only about 200 million years old. Then if you go down towards Ann Arbor, from Ann Arbor to Grand Rapids, we find lots of Ice Age creatures that were here between 15 and 50,000 years ago. So we do have a range of fossils we can find right here in Michigan.
I see. And how do you find them? Do you go out in the dirt or out in the woods?
Absolutely.
Or do you get a leader to lead you?
Sometimes
sign
we get
up
leaders
with a group?
Yes. The best way to do it is to join a rock club. Rock clubs across the state of Michigan know where these fossil sites are, and we've been finding these fossils here since pretty much the first time people came to Michigan, so we kind of know where they are. So for example, people that like to hunt Petoskey stones, they know they need to go to Petoskey and Charlevoix. People that want to hunt 350 million year old seashells know they need to go to Alpena. So we do have certain areas where we know these fossils are, and they are constantly weathering out of the rock.
So that's it. Do you have to dig them, or just push away some dirt, or are they just lying on the ground?
Great question. We do sometimes dig, but we only dig where we've already found those fossils. In many instances, all you have to do is just walk around the surface of the earth here in Michigan, and you will literally find these fossils. Sometimes children actually do find mastodon teeth, those giant elephant-like creatures from the Ice Age. They find them while they're digging in a ditch or when someone is digging up a pond in their backyard. So we find them completely by accident. But up north, like I said, from Alpena, Rogers City to Traverse City, you just walk around the beaches or walk around the face of the earth, and the fossils are laying right there for you to pick up.
So can you train your eye to see them by shape or color?
Absolutely, another great question. That's exactly what we do. We look for differences. We know kind of what rocks look like. We know what seashells look like, and you can actually see the imprints, or you can see the shape of the seashells. You can see the shape of the corals. So you train your eye a little bit. I take people up there several times a year, and when they first get there, they look around. I don't see anything. What are you talking about? There are no fossils here. But then once I train them for what they're looking for, then they, oh, I see one there. I see one there. It doesn't take very long for you to really realize what riches we have right under our feet.
So you're looking for shapes. Is that how you start them?
Mostly looking for shapes and sometimes
and
the
size,
color.
probably.
And
too.
size, and sometimes the color. The rock is kind of a light gray rock, and the fossils we find here are more of a dark gray or black. So you can see the color difference as well.
The shade differences. Oh, so interesting. Now you brought some toys here, some examples of something. Tell us about.
Yes, I brought some fossils with me today. This one I actually happened to find this year. This one is a fossil fish from the Green River Formation out in Wyoming. I was very fortunate to go out there and dig this year, and I found lots and lots of fish. This one happens to be a piranha. From about 50 million years ago. Back then, the piranha didn't have triangular shaped teeth like they have today. They had very sharp pin shaped teeth. And these creatures lived and died millions of years ago, and they were buried, and they were preserved in this nice yellow limestone, basically. And what we did is we tilted the rocks on their sides, tapped them gently with a hammer, and those pieces kind of split open like the pages of an old history book, one page at a time. And as those layers split open, they revealed these wonderful fossils that were inside.
So when you started, you didn't know what was in there?
I had no idea. You just, in this case, in Wyoming, you have to break a lot of rock. You just basically sit down in the quarry. What they do is they pull the rock face down, and there's piles of rock and rubble there. Then you take them, tilt them on their side, and tap them and hope that there's something inside. But that area is so rich, we do find lots and lots of fossils inside those rocks.
You said it was limestone or sandstone?
It's limestone. It's actually a very thin limestone. That was created when many volcanoes erupted out west, and those volcanoes dropped that ash into the water. The ash settled down to the bottom, the fish died, and they were covered up. And this happened time and time again. The environment would slowly try to come back. It would try to reestablish itself. Then the volcano would erupt again, and it would poison the water. The fish would die and sink to the bottom. So you've got layer upon layer upon layer of these creatures.
Are the teeth visible?
The teeth are barely visible in this guy. You can see some of them in his upper jaw. You can see a couple of them in his lower jaw.
Oh,
but right up in here is where you can see some of his teeth. And very small pin-shaped teeth.
Interesting. And you brought, what is that over there?
This one is another, this large rock here. This is the Petoskey stone. This is the one that people call Petoskey stone. It's a hexagonaria coral. And like I said, it's not a Petoskey till you slice it and polish it and charge people money for it. This actually grew on the bottom of the ocean. Its rock attachment was right here. This is where it attached to a rock, and it grew like a very large plate on the bottom of the ocean. So we have lots and lots of these kind of fossils as well. Up in Rogers City, we can find fossils that look like this. This is actually a piece of a limestone again, but it's got a nice gastropod in here, and gastropods are snails. But again, you can see if this is
huge.
Yes, you can see if this is down on the ground, you can actually see the shapes in there. You can see that this is something that's been formed by nature. This is actually a creature. So lots of different things that we can see there, and it's just a passion of mine that I go out and I can find these creatures and bring them to people and show them what we have available just right here beneath our feet.
What does passion mean to you?
Oh, the passion. I've been told that I'm very passionate about the things I do. It's an excitement. For me, it's almost like Christmas every day. You never know what you're going to find inside these rocks. So I'm very excited, very happy to share all this knowledge and expertise with people around me. I do lots of library programs. This year I did 84 libraries in 70 days, teaching children and talking to children about dinosaurs and paleontology. And the looks on their faces, the surprise, the enjoyment, the wonder of these giant creatures, that's what keeps me going. I really love what I do. I love sharing this wonderful field of paleontology.
So you have a teaching degree in college.
Yes.
And so what makes, I don't want to say a good teacher, but what makes those kids respond so enthusiastic? I heard one of your library presentations, so I can really say they were following your every word and every sentence count.
Thank you.
That's what I noticed from my point of view.
Yes, thank you. It's part of that passion. You have to translate that to the students. You have to be energetic, and I'm very energetic when I do my programs. I'm constantly walking back and forth and engaging each student as I walk around that room. I also have things that I've got hidden in my pocket. So when I talk about something, I'll reach into my pocket and pull something out, and the students are shocked that it's in my pocket. And then they're watching me to see, what's he going to do next? What's he going to pull out next? What's in his box? So the students are engaged because I engage them first.
With eye contact?
Eye contact. Eye contact. I also vary the pitch of my voice. I sometimes get very low and very slow, and sometimes I get very loud and very boisterous. But again, that helps to keep their attention. And today, unfortunately, we have to try to keep their attention because of the computers, and I'm not knocking computers, but the handheld games. Children come home from school, they'll sit down on the couch and they'll play their Nintendos, they'll play their Xboxes. They need to get out and enjoy what we have in nature today. This is a wonderful country. Get them outside, get them to enjoy what we have, our natural resources, right here in the state.
So if you were taking a child out of the house, off the living room couch, and taking them for the first time on a little walk to just see nature, how would you do that?
Oh, I did it this past weekend. My granddaughter was up here from, my grandson was up here from down by Detroit. We'd walk outside. He's 2 years old. We walked outside, and children are like sponges. They look at everything, they touch everything, they want to try to see what that is. And I'd bend down and I'd pick up a blade of grass and talk to him about grass. I had a little acorn. We picked up the acorn, I put it in his hand, and he's looking at the acorn and touching it. I'm trying to explain what that thing is. That thing eventually will grow into that big tree you see right there. So I take the time, I get down on their level. Sometimes I'll sit right down on the ground with them because I'm at their level, and I'm not such a big monster anymore. I'm down on their level. I'm speaking with them, to them. And it's just a wonderful feeling. I show them the different things in nature that we have around us.
You are a gift to your grandson and to the rest of us and everybody listening, because that is such a good thing. What you're teaching is not only what it is, but what it could be and will be.
Yes.
You know, so it's teaching like the future. Things are not necessarily the way they are forever.
Exactly. The trees weren't always there. They grew from a very small tree into these giant trees we see now. And after those trees are gone, they turn into peat moss. They rot away, and they start to become basically fossil fuels, gas and oil that we put in our cars. It's a cycle. It's a cycle. The earth is a cycle.
What got interested in this kind of a field?
Wow, great question. I spent almost all my time as a child outside. I was born and raised in New York State, and I basically was running out into the fields every chance I could. I lived on a block that was 1 square mile, each leg of that block. I was the only child on that block. So for me to entertain myself, I needed to go out into the fields, out into the woods. And I collected bird feathers, and I collected rocks and minerals and nests, and anything I could find. I would press flowers between the pages of a book. I collected flowers, I collected butterflies and insects. And from that love of nature, I started collecting these things called fossils. I actually had the opportunity, the great opportunity, to work at the Midland Center for the Arts for a number of years. And I became the interim director of the Hall of Ideas, and I learned about museum exhibitry. So now I have 3 exhibits that are touring the country right now. One is on the fossils of Michigan, one is on dinosaurs, and one is on trilobites, which is one of my first passions, these creatures that crawled on the ancient saltwater tropical seabeds.
Tell us something about those. Were they snail-like? Were they...
The trilobites were kind of like lobsters, crabs, and crayfish. The closest living relative to the trilobites today is a horseshoe crab. They're a very primitive creature. I like to call them my roly-polies because they also have articulated body segments. They had the ability to roll themselves up into a little ball like pill bugs. So when I talk to children, they can't seem to figure out lobsters, crabs, crayfish, but I say roly-poly, now I know what that creature looked like.
Interesting. Very interesting. And why are they so prevalent? Is that why you chose them?
Yes, trilobites were actually one of the first creatures on Earth. They were so prevalent during the Cambrian period that the Cambrian was called the Age of Trilobites. We had hundreds and hundreds of different families and thousands of different species of trilobites. They grew in size from about 1/4 of an inch long to well over 3 feet long. They were a really varied form of life. They were the first creatures on Earth that actually had eyes. They had segmented eyes, or basically lenses, like a fly's eye. When you look at a fly's eye, you can see all those little tiny lenses. That's what the trilobite eyes look like. And we can see that in some of the fossils that we discover.
Can you account for the different size? I mean, that's really huge.
Well, every creature on Earth, and this is something I also do use, again, a great question, something I do use when I talk to children, I talk about the differences in creatures today. We have creatures that like to eat trees. We call them giraffes. They've got a very long neck, and they eat plants. They're an herbivore. But then we have rabbits that eat down off the ground. If every creature on Earth ate the same thing, lived in the same environment, eventually that environment would be destroyed. The creatures would have no more food. So we have a wide variety of animals on Earth today to use this wonderful environment that we have. If every animal was the same, eventually the animals would perish.
So interesting. So you've written books, you've put exhibits together, you've lectured to children, you've had a television program, you've been on radio, you have done a lot of different things. And what, I don't want to say in terms of satisfaction, but basically I guess I am asking that, at what point in your life were each of these satisfying?
Wow, that's a hard question there. The most satisfaction I get is when I see the faces of the children when I'm talking to them in libraries or schools. I do many school programs as well. I do some Cub Scout and Boy Scout programs, and the wonderment in their eyes, the almost disbelief of some of the things I'm talking about. Even the parents, as I'm talking to the students, the parents' eyes get wide, their mouths drop open. They can't believe some of the things that I'm talking about. They can't believe that some of these things actually survived in nature. The satisfaction I get is the satisfaction, the return I get from the students. Many times the students will write me thank you notes and they'll send them to me. On my website I get emails all the time from students and parents thanking me for writing these books, because these books are opening their eyes to something that they can't really talk to their students about, talk to the children about. So everybody is so happy that I can actually present this to the kids, and I do it in a way that people can understand. Normal people can understand what paleontology is, what fossils are, because I can bring it to their level and explain it to them in a way that they can understand.
Have you ever talked to parent groups about how to teach about nature?
Oh gosh, I wish I could. I do a lot of parent groups, but basically all they want to know about is these fossils and dinosaurs. But I do talk about some of the education techniques that I use. Again, because my bachelor's degree is in education, I learned about educational methodologies. I learned how to speak to students, how to teach these things to people.
What was the most useful thing or things that you learned from studying how to teach?
Engaging the students, engage them. I hate when professors and teachers stand at the blackboard. They stand like statues and write on the blackboard, and that's what they do. They need to move around. They need to engage each student. Don't, just because there's a student in the back room, you know, kind of looking down at their desk, engage them, walk up to them, so they have to turn up and look at you. You know, engage the students, get them interested in what you're talking about. And that can be something as simple as using examples. I use examples all the time. For example, the acorn growing into the oak and then falling and becoming, you know, peat moss and things like that. Explaining these things to the children in a way that they can understand.
Are the parents responsive? Would they like to learn how to do that?
Yes, my gosh, the parents are really responsive. Many times after my programs, parents will come up to me while the kids are in the library or whatever, and they'll start asking me questions. Well, how do you do this? And you know, why do you do this? And how can I do this for my child? And many times I just tell them, you know, spend the time with the child, read to them, expand their mind by reading the different kinds of books from different kinds of disciplines, and take them outside. Spend time with those children. The TV is a terrible babysitter. You need to spend time with your children.
So if you had to watch TV, because it seems the parents do that,
Yes.
Are there limits in that age group that you would say, like 10 minutes?
Gosh, as far
I
as
never
limiting,
believed it. I didn't let my child, until she broke her leg, watch any of that television.
Yeah, limiting it, I don't know about limiting it, but there are some programs that are quite good. I do like to watch National Geographic, the NOVA programs, the science programs. Sometimes those programs are extremely educational and very eye-opening. I really love the cosmos. The astronomers that I've met over time have opened my eyes to some of the things up in the night sky. as something that I didn't know anything about. So I would learn by watching Nova or watching National Geographic, talking about the universe and the planets and things like that.
Would you think that's those programs would hold the interest of someone in second to sixth grade?
If you sit down with your child and sit with them and watch it with them, I think you can, because then you can bring what they're talking about on TV in that program. You can bring it to them and explain. Well, remember when we were somewhere doing something, we looked up in the night sky, we saw the stars. You can actually relate that back to the program that's on TV. Talk about the Leonid meteor showers. You know, what is a meteor, Mom and Dad? Well, remember when we were out and we saw these bright streaks across the night sky? You know, things like that.
You know, I'm sitting here and thinking, I have such a sense of wonder and curiosity, and I just wonder, I'm really wondering if television doesn't blunt that, and video games, it's here and now in person.
Yes.
So the questioning of life, or the pause in life, is just not part of the experience.
No, it's not part of the experience anymore. Children will come home and, like I said, they'll sit and watch TV or play Nintendo. It's a very difficult thing to get them out and get them excited and get them to enjoy the nature around them. It's a challenge, it's a constant challenge. Today, people are just trying to survive. Many households are one income and sometimes no income. They're losing their jobs. It's very difficult to motivate yourself to do something with your child when life is very difficult for you. But you have to try to make the attempt. You'd be surprised how many times I go to these library shows and library programs where kids would just say, "Boy, I wish my mom and dad would read to me." Just read to me, you know, and that's the thing that really breaks my heart. I work with lots of disadvantaged children as well. I do programs for the hearing impaired. That was an eye-opening experience for me, because I took my program and I wrote it down on a piece of paper and I gave it to the interpreter, and they had to learn some of the terminology that I was using, and then I had to learn something about their sign language, how they would actually sign some of these things, and we had a wonderful time. And again, bringing something like that to somebody who doesn't have that experience is just a joy to me. It fills me with more passion to go out and do more of it.
How do you keep yourself fresh? How do you keep yourself enthused?
I don't know. I'm a AAA personality, I guess. It's just something that's inbred in me. My parents taught me very young to be aggressive, to be enthusiastic, to be passionate about whatever I do. Don't do something halfway. Don't do something a quarter of the way. If you're going to do something, be passionate about it and do it to 100%. Otherwise, it's not worth doing. And I think that's what's kind of kept me going. I won't accept any challenge unless I can give that challenge my full attention.
Interesting. Were your parents out there on the field with you explaining things?
Yes. I was raised in a Czech family.
Tell us.
My parents came over from the Czech Republic. They ran away from the communists in 1952. And my mother, while my father was at work, my mother would take me out to the backyard and we would farm. We had a 2-acre plot. We planted vegetables. We picked the insects off the plants. We raised rabbits, and she showed me how to dig dandelions to feed to the rabbits, so the rabbits had something to eat. I mean, it was constantly taking me out and doing that. My father taught me how to trim and prune apple trees and pear trees. So they took me out a lot. They took me out into the woods. I could go on forever. I'm sorry, my passion is overflowing here, but I could go on forever with the things my parents taught me, and that's what children need.
What did they value?
Hard work. Hard work. Again, coming from a European country, hard work was it. And again, to do something to its 100% completion. Don't do something halfway. If you're going to do something, do it right, and do it right the first time.
Did they help you with your homework?
No, unfortunately not. Their language was Czech. My first language when I went to kindergarten was Czech. I didn't know a word of English, so I struggled. My entire life I've struggled with English language because Czech is my natural tongue. Czech is my first language. I had difficult times in school. Mathematics, even to this day, I don't do mathematics. I dig in the dirt. This is my passion. Mathematics, unfortunately, is not.
I don't think that's a language problem.
No, that's not a language problem. I think, though, it stemmed from the language problem, not being able to understand certain things that people were trying to tell me at a young age, not being able to understand some of those things. And I guess that's not where my passions lied. My passions lie in nature, something that I could understand, something that I could see and I could grasp. I could grasp that concept.
That's really something. So, did you bring your children up that way too, as your parents did?
My wife is extremely intelligent. She's the one that helped them with the homework. I grabbed the kids and I went outside. I taught them about nature, and now both my children, both my daughters say that my grandkids, when they come to visit, Grandpa will teach them about nature.
Thank you. Well, hasn't this been a very interesting time? There's several things that I think we could take away and put in our lives. Firstly, as a parent, you have to do it with them and explain how things sequence, how they work, what the possibilities are, and if you don't know, a quick look on, to talk to him or the computer or a book, find it out. Go slow. Teach them what you can. Also, in terms of values, that if you're going to do something, do it all out. Give every bit of yourself to it and do it the very, very, very best you can, and work hard on it to make it the way you hope and think it should be and believe it can be. Thirdly, there's a wonderful way to live, and that's to really see what's in front of you and to see the wonders of the past and possibly the future right in front of you. He talked about training his eyes to see shapes, but he talked about everything visual. And I encourage all of you, I'm a visual person, and I get a lot of satisfaction when I see versus when I'm just like scanning the horizon and I'm not seeing. There's much in nature that's refreshing. There's much in nature that's joy. His is a passion in teaching to engage every single child by looking, by changing voice, by changing position, by having things in his pockets. There's a lot to learn. We have to engage in life for ourselves, for our children, for our culture. We have so much to give. See you next time. Thank you.
To contact Junia, send her an email at info@juniadoan.com. For more information, program schedules, and news about future guests, go to www.juniadoan.com. Thanks for joining us. See you next time for Uncommon Sense with Junia Doan.
Local productions on QTV are made possible with support from viewers like you. Thank you.